Hello everybody and welcome back. In the previous lessons, we learned how users can register, log in, log out, and even reset their passwords securely in Django. Now that we can identify users, the next big question is, what are the different users allowed to do? In this lesson, we learn how to define user roles in Django so that different users have different capabilities inside an application. We'll understand how Django handles roles using built-in fields and groups, and then we'll walk through a practical example where we set up user roles for a small publishing house. So let's get started. So in this lesson, we are going to focus on defining user roles, which is an essential part of authorization in Django applications. Now, what are user roles? A user role defines what actions a user is allowed to perform in your application. Almost every real-world application uses roles to separate responsibilities and to control access. Now let's take a real-world example here. Consider a blog website. Some users only read articles, some write them, some edit and approve them, and some manage the entire platform. Each of these is a distinct role. Now, why to define user roles? Defining roles is critical for security. Users should never access features that they are not supposed to. Roles also help you structure your application logic and present a cleaner, simpler interface to users. Now, let's look at user roles in Django. Django provides a flexible system for user roles using the built-in user models and groups. We don't need to create our own role system from scratch. Let's look at the built-in role fields. The Django user model includes two important Boolean fields. One is isStaff. isStaff allows a user to access the Django admin panel. And then we have isSuperUser. isSuperUser gives a user all permissions automatically without needing explicit assignment. Super users are usually limited to trusted administrators. Now for custom roles like author, editor, or premium member, Django provides something called groups. A group is simply a label you assign to users. Later, permissions can be attached to groups, making role-based access control very powerful. Now groups can be created manually through the Django admin panel or automatically using scripts. Both approaches are commonly used in real-life projects. Now let's go to the CodeChef platform and take a working example and see how we can define user roles in Django and how Django handles it gracefully. So here I am on the CodeChef platform and we have a worked out example called Publishing House User Role Setup. So in this example, we have created roles for a small publishing house. If you look at the file explorer, we have the project called My Project and an app called My App. And then I've created a folder called scripts under which I have a Python script file called setuproles.py. And here I have the script for creating the users and the groups and so on, which I will show you. So our publishing house has two roles. One is the editor, who needs access to the Django's admin panel, and another one is the writers who submits content but do not need admin access. Now there are two ways to set this up. One is manually using the Django's admin panel, and the second one, which we have used in this example, is using a Python script to automate everything. So this setuproles.py is the Python script that I have written to automate this entire process. Now if you look at this setuproles.py, you can see that this script does the following. First, it creates a super user with the credentials chef and this email ID chef@codechef.com and this password chefpass@123. And then we create two groups, editor group and writers group, as you can see over here. And also we create two users. One is this Charlie editor that we have created, who is marked as a staff user, as you can see here, and is added to the editors group. And another one is this Diana writer, which is another user who is added to the writers group. And here you can see that eStaff is set to false. That means she does not have the admin access. And finally, the script prints verification details to the terminal so that we can confirm that everything worked correctly. And also remember that this is something inbuilt in Django that we are making use of. So we have to import these users and group in order to make use of all this that we have done in this script. And then we have the urls.py file here, where we have a simple root path for the home page and the admin path for accessing the admin panel. And here on the views.py file also, we can see that we just have one view that is for the home page, which just returns an HTTP response saying welcome to the publishing house. And this is the home page. Alright, so let us run and see if this is working as expected. And the way to check this is, we will run this code and then we will go to the admin panel of Django and we will log in using the super user credentials that we have created here, the chef with this password. And then we will check if the two groups that we created are there, and also we will check if the two users that we have created are there and if they are added to the correct groups as we have set up. Now let me first click on the run button, and the run button is configured in such a way that when you click on the run button, this script will be running. So what this script does is, it will just set up this super user and also it will set up the groups and the users as we have mentioned over here. And after that, we have to run the server manually on the terminal, and once the browser loads, we have to go to the admin panel and check if everything is working as expected. So let me click on the run button here. So when I click on the run button, you can see here on the terminal that this script is running and it has created the super user called chef, and it is also created this user called Charlie editor, and it is added to the editors group, and also this Diana writer user has been created and is added to the writers group, and the verification messages are also printed over here. Alright, now what I'll do is I will actually run the server and we will try to verify it via the admin panel. Okay, now here let me type python manage.py run server 0.0.0.0 on the port 3000. So this is how we start the server. We have already learned this before. So when I press enter, you can see that the home page is loaded successfully. Let me open this in a new tab, and here we have to go to the admin panel. So in order to go to the admin panel, after this .com, we have to append /admin. Okay, so when I press enter, you can see this is the Django's administration panel which has opened up, which we have also studied in another lesson. Okay, now we have created a super user called chef. So let's log in using the chef's credential, which is chef, and the password is chefpass@123. So I click on login. Now you can see here the admin panel has loaded, and we can see that the groups and users are present over here. So if I click on the groups, you can see that there are two groups created. One is the editor group and one is a writers group. So if you click on the editors group, you can see all the details of the editors group here, the permission. If you want to add any other permissions, you can do so from the admin panel itself. And then if I go back to the groups again, you can see we have another group called writers, and again you can also modify the writers group as required through this admin panel. Now if you click on the users, we can see that there are three users created here. One is a Charlie editor, who is a editor user, and then we have this Diana writer, who is a writer user, and then we have the chef, which is the super user that we created, and it is with this account that we have logged into this admin panel right now. Now you can see that Charlie editor and chef, their staff status is set to tick, and then Diana writer does not have the staff status. So again, if you click on the users, you can see the details about them, and you can see that this Charlie editor is added to the editors group. Okay, and if you want to make changes, there is option of doing it here. Now if I go back and show you the Diana writer, we can see that she's added to the writers group over here. So that is how we can set up permissions and user roles in Django based on the users and groups that we create. So this is just to verify that everything has worked successfully. Now it will be very useful when you build real world applications where you have to assign specific roles to specific users. In this lesson, we learned how to define user roles in Django using the built-in user models and groups systems. We saw how roles help control access, improve security, and structure applications more effectively. We also worked through a complete publishing house example where user roles were created automatically using a Python script. Now make sure you try out the practice problem that is available on CodeChef for this lesson. I will see you in the next one.